Let's step back for a moment and imagine ourselves wandering the echoing marble corridors of ancient Rome. Not the sunlit empire of postcards and Hollywood fantasies, but a place of shadowy secrets, where the real currency was beauty, suffering, and absolute power. In this heart-stopping episode from history, we zoom in on Sporus, a name you may not know, but a story you'll never forget. Sporus wasn't born for the spotlight. He was just a young boy, reportedly strikingly beautiful, living quietly in the labyrinthine halls of the imperial palace. Fate, however, had other plans, and Sporus would become the unwilling star in one of the most tragic tales of the Roman Empire. Let's set the stage. It's 65 AD. The Emperor Nero rules with an iron grip, his empire sprawling from the foggy edges of Britain all the way to the banks of the Euphrates. Beneath Nero's gold-clad palace, darker currents swirled. Currents powered by grief, obsession, and a king's madness. Rome was still reeling from the towering flames of the Great Fire, and Nero the Mad was whispered everywhere as paranoia seeped through his marble halls. But out of all Nero's notorious excesses, nothing would come close to what happened to Sporus. It began with loss. Nero's beloved, his wife Poppaea Sabina, was gone. Some say he killed her in a furious outburst. Others blame a tragic accident during childbirth. Either way, her death shattered Nero's already fragile mind. In that vacuum of grief, a dangerous idea began to form. Then came Sporus, noticed, the sources say, because he bore an uncanny resemblance to the dead Empress. For most people, that would be an odd coincidence. For Nero, it was a spark that ignited obsession. Historical writers like Cassius Dio and Suetonius, who loved a scandal, tell us that Nero couldn't let Sporus slip away. His solution was as horrifying as it was theatrical. To try and resurrect Poppaea, he ordered Sporus castrated, carving any chance of a normal life away. This wasn't just about looks. Nero planned a public spectacle, a full-on imperial wedding with Sporus in pearls and silk, presented to Rome as the new Empress. Sporus even took on the name Sabina, crossing the boundaries of identity and gender at the whim of the emperor. Imagine for a moment what that ceremony felt like. Elegant gowns, ancient hymns, and behind every smiling face, a trace of horror at the grim farce. The pomp and circumstance hid a tragedy that everyone present could feel, but nobody dared name. Rome, a city accustomed to strange imperial games, shuddered. Even by Roman standards, the sight of the emperor's new bride, a young boy mutilated and dressed in his predecessor's jewels, left the citizenry in shock. In a civilization that placed so much value on tradition and reputation, this was the final, most monstrous blurring of the lines between love, loss, and possession. Nero's private pain became Sporus's nightmare. The emperor paraded his new empress through games, feasts, and all the glittering rituals of court life, demanding Sporus play the role of Poppaea to perfection. Every gesture, word, and gaze scrutinized, an endless performance with no exit. But it wasn't just about being seen. Sporus was simultaneously lavished with gifts and deprived of any agency, forever bearing the emotional whiplash of living as another person, while being reminded daily of what he'd lost: his identity, his autonomy, even his body. Here's a disturbing fact. Romans, for all their eccentricities, saw this as a sign of the emperor's unraveling mind. Power was no longer grounded in military might or political savvy, but in a single man's unhinged desire to control reality itself. As the empire cracked beneath the weight of rebellion and intrigue, this strange tale of Sporus was broadcast for all to see, a living symbol of how absolute power corrupts not only the ruler, but the very fabric of society. When Nero's world finally collapsed in 68 AD and he chose suicide over capture, Sporus's nightmare didn't end. If anything, it became more dangerous. With shifting emperors battling over the ruins of Nero's old regime, Sporus became little more than a political trophy, passed from ruler to ruler, his fate dependent on whoever claimed control of Rome. The parade of new emperors, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, meant Sporus was cargo, not a person. Each treated him differently, but no one saw the human beneath the imperial trappings. Vitellius, the last in this tragic relay, planned the ultimate humiliation, forcing Sporus to reenact a mythological rape for the entertainment of the mob. Can you imagine the utter hopelessness? Rather than suffer this final public degradation, Sporus made his last, unmistakably human choice. He took his own life. In a society that crushed spirits and remade people for imperial pleasure, Sporus's suicide was possibly the first real act of agency he'd had since childhood. Quietly, he reclaimed his narrative, refusing to be the plaything of history any longer. There are so many lessons hidden in this heartbreaking story about power's ability to destroy, about the resilience and fragility of identity, and about the way the powerless become collateral in the ambitions of the mighty. Sporus reminds us that history isn't just about emperors and battles, but about real people caught in the crosshairs. If you found yourself chilled and moved by the story of Sporus, let's keep this conversation going. Drop your thoughts below, share your own reactions, and let's make sure the voices overshadowed by emperors and wars are never forgotten. And if you want more stories that dig beneath the surface of history, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of the past. Your next unforgettable story may be just around the corner.